Every once in a while, there's a particular line from a movie, a book, sometimes a homily, maybe scripture that you're reading. You're just watching something, you're reading something, and then this line just sort of jumps out at you. It's memorable, it kind of strikes you, or it speaks to kind of where you are in your life at that particular moment. Back in 2008, I was a brand new priest and was invited to go with the diocesan group to an event called World Youth Day. It's really not a day, it's a week, but it's a gathering of young adults from all over the world who gather with the Pope in a particular place for kind of a week of celebration and learning about our faith. Well, that particular year was in Sydney, Australia, of all places. So we get on a plane and off we go. And in my mind, especially as a brand new priest, I was so excited for the final Mass. There's this big culminating Mass with hundreds of thousands of people. Just a few weeks ago, this happened in Lisbon, Portugal. Pope Francis and 1.5 million young adults. Sydney was a little smaller than that. It was a little harder to get to over in Australia. But at the closing Mass, there were 800,000 young people. 5,000 priests. I got back and people said, "Did you get to meet the Pope?" No. Big crowd. He's one guy. Didn't happen. But that culminating Mass, that's what I was looking forward to as a new priest, to be able to celebrate Mass with Pope Benedict. Well, it turns out the highlight for me, what I remember the most, came not from the closing Mass, but actually the opening Mass. And it was the words of Cardinal George Pell, who at that time was the Archbishop of Sydney. So there was a gathering, probably 100,000 people at this particular Mass. And Cardinal Pell was speaking to the young people about commitment. And he said this line, and I will never forget it. He said, "My dear young people, don't spend your life sitting on the fence. Only in commitment will you find fulfillment. Only in commitment will you find fulfillment." I think about that all the time. I've already made a commitment. I'm a priest, right? But there's a daily commitment that needs to be made. Even if I'm a follower of Christ, even if I'm a disciple, every day I have to make a decision to follow Jesus more than I did yesterday. Or if I screwed up yesterday, to get back on track and try to do it better today. We're given a beautiful example in St. Peter in the gospel today. Jesus comes to the disciples and he says to them, "Who do people say that I am?" A little public opinion poll. What's going on out there? What are people saying? The disciples respond. Some say, "You're Elijah." Some say John the Baptist. Still others, Jeremiah or one of the prophets. He kind of gets the opinion of what's out there. But then you can kind of imagine Jesus going up to each one of the disciples and sticking his finger in their chest and saying, "Who do you say that I am?" And it's Peter who responds. So in our tradition, we hold that Peter was the leader of the early church. Peter was our first pope. We have a statue of him right here in our church, just to the left of the tabernacle. An image of Peter there in the blue with the book. And what's Peter holding? He's holding the keys. When Jesus says, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church," I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. So we see always Peter represented with the keys. Peter responds with commitment. Peter could have said, when Jesus says, "Who do you say that I am?" Peter could have said, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, whatever he's saying. Could have gone in any number of ways. But Peter commits. Peter says, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." He doesn't say you kind of are. He doesn't say you sort of are. He doesn't say, I kind of think this maybe. Peter makes a commitment. He says, you are the Christ. And Jesus says, you are Peter. Upon this rock I will build my church. That's what commitment looks like. Going all in with the Lord, right? In our walk of faith, that can sometimes be difficult. There's a lot of obstacles in our way to committing. Maybe it's some personal sin that gets in the way. I encourage you to jump in the confession line, right? Maybe it's some kind of bad habit that's in the way of really committing to the Lord. Maybe some other circumstance that's making it more difficult. But what Jesus is asking of each one of us is to do what Peter did. Jesus pointing each one of us in the chest and saying, who do you say that I am? And you and I have an opportunity to respond. We can kind of say, well, I don't really know yet. It's okay. We could say, well, I'm still working on it. I got some different ideas that I've learned over the years. I was privileged in college to take a class on world religions. And it was a fascinating thing, fascinating just to spend some time studying the world religions, studying Islam and Judaism and Buddhism and all the different Christian denominations. But I remember as a college student thinking to myself, okay, where am I? Who do you say that I am? I remember as a high school student, then later as a college student, and then becoming a priest, making that commitment saying, Lord, it's you. You're the one. You are the Christ. You died for my sins. You rose again from the dead. It was you, Lord, who conquered sin and death. That kind of commitment is what the Lord is asking of us. It's a daily commitment. And there's a tendency, I think, in our world today to kind of want to have it in every way. Right? Imagine a couple trivial examples. Football season in Stillwater starts Saturday. Beware. Get ready. Fortify yourselves, okay? Imagine the quarterback of OSU getting into the huddle and saying to his team, guys, just like run whatever play you want. Break. We're going to have a problem. The game is not going to go as well as we want it to go. Imagine maybe you're a young person, maybe you're looking for love, right? And you walk into a bar, you walk into a fraternity party, you walk into some gathering and you say, who wants to date me? Right? You have to commit, you have to go up to her and say, would you like to have dinner sometime? You don't just generally ask people to dinner. It's a commitment. And there can be rejection in that regard, but with Jesus Christ, there's never going to be rejection, right? We go to the Lord who loves us. He's already committed to us, right? That beautiful statue of Peter, go up another couple levels and look at the commitment that Jesus made for you and me. Total, fruitful. That's the commitment the Lord has already made to us, and He's asking us for a particular response. Only in commitment will we find fulfillment. And so I don't know what that looks like in your life, but I think the Lord is asking each one of us, what's the next step in committing more deeply to the Lord Jesus in our life? Maybe it's coming to Mass more. Maybe it's some particular commitment in regards to something going on around the church. Maybe it's to be a little more faithful in my life of prayer. Maybe it's to draw more close to my spouse, to my children. Whatever it may be, the Lord is asking us for a commitment, and it is only in that commitment that we will find fulfillment. We can't have it always. The Lord is drawing us into that. He's committed to us. Will you commit to Him this week? Only in commitment will we find fulfillment.